Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tangle Time Arts. My name is Nana Herron, and I'm a certified Zentangle teacher. And I should say, welcome back. I've been away for a little while. I lost my voice, and today's probably the first day that I'm feeling much better. And so I thought I would try to record something. Um, and hopefully my voice will hold out for this recording. If not, we'll be tangling together quietly. All right, so for this one, I thought we'd do something easy and take a look at Mooka. Well, my take on Mooka. And Mooka is a tangle from Zentangle. And for this project, we'll need our basic tools, our beautiful white tile, a black pen. I'm using a PN this time, a number two pencil and a tortillon. And at the end, if you'd like to add some color, I'll be using some Crayola colored pencils, but that's optional. You can decide whether you want to or not anytime later. All right, let's get started. For this one, I think we are going to skip the dots and the lines, and we're just going to go straight into our Mooka. But I am going to kind of make a dot in the center with my pencil just so I know where that is. And we'll be working kind of on the diagonals. So I'm going to lightly pencil that in so you kind of know where I'm going with this, but you wouldn't have to put the pencil marks in. It's just kind of a guide to help us a little bit. And then we'll take our black pen. And Mooka is a tangle that fascinates me because it's a continuous line, actually. Um, and I'm going to do this a little differently, kind of combining it with a hollow ball technique. All right, so you can pick any corner you want to work towards, and I'm going to rotate my tile a little bit so it's more comfortable for me, so that I'm working kind of towards the top rather than to a side. And right in the center here, I'm going to draw a curve, and it's going to kind of take up most of the space here. So we've got a curve coming in like this, but we're not going to lift up our pen. We're going to curve back around and then aura that all the way back and then stop when we're a little bit above our original point. And then here's where it gets interesting. From that second point, which is a little bit above, we are going to make a curve going in the other direction. Now for Mooka, that often means just keeping it inside here, but I'm actually going to take it outside for a little bit more interest and a more advanced Mooka. So from this point, we're going to curve around in the opposite direction. And when we get to our first one, we're just going to pick up the pen and kind of air draw over and then make our turn and come back and aura that curve. And we're going to end a little bit above where we started. So we've got this continual line going around, picking up where we need to, and continuing on to the other side and coming back. And then we're going to pick up where we left off and do the same thing. And this is where it gets a little tricky because you're kind of just following over to the other side. And then let's do one more. So we have to pick up our pen a couple of times to follow that through. And I'm just going to finish on the inside with a little bit of Kind of looks like a little fescue in there. So that's our first one. I'm actually going to do this 3 more times, but I'm going to flip over to the other side here. So I'm going to rotate around so it's a little easier to work with and do the same thing. So we're going to start with a big curve, loop around, aura that, and come back, finishing a little bit above where we started. And then we're going to go back the other way, pick up the pen, over to the other side, finish your loop, and come back. And now we're going to go back over. And we'll do it one more time. And finish off with a little, tiny little fescue in there. So we finished 2, and we're going to do the same thing here and here. So again, starting kind of from the center, making a curve, coming back around, ending a little above, and going the opposite direction, picking up your pen where you need to, kind of with that halabas style, and continuing on. Need to rotate a little bit here so I can fit this in. Finishing off with that little detail there. And we can just have one more. Again, starting from that center, doing the curve, coming back around. And this is our last one, so we have to deal with some of our previous Mooka. There's so many fun things you can do with Mooka and make it your own. You can change these ends so that it has more of like a bulb on the end. Just so many fun things you can do there. And we're back where we started. So we have almost this intertwined looking piece that we can now shade and color. Something that you might want to add before we shade and color, just for interest, and I will put a couple of these in, is this is really fun to put orbs in. I don't add a lot of orbs, but I like to find those little areas that maybe an orb here or there would add some interest. So you can rotate around and kind of find some areas where you think an orb might look cool, kind of tucked in there. They don't have to be the same size. They can be larger or smaller. You could put two together. Let's see, rotate around and see if I want to add some more. It's really an individualized thing as far as adding them. And if orbs are not your favorite, don't worry, it's not required. Let's put another little one in here. You can always add more later. All right. I'm going to put the cap on my pen and pick up my pencil and add a little shading before adding color. And I like to add shading in these areas that, like this one goes underneath this one here. So I'm just going to add a little shading there. And I also like to add, you could add it all through here, but for now I'm just going to add it to these areas that are kind of underneath. Shading is so much fun because you can do so many different things with shading, and that's one of the areas your individuality can really come out and your creativity. You could do the same tangle many times and shade it differently, and it's going to look a little bit different each time. So I'm just adding a little bit of shading wherever I feel like I have. These kind of look like stems to me, so wherever I have those going underneath another one. Kind of rotate around and make sure that I have all of my areas shaded. I'm going to shade this here because it's kind of under this stem here. And then I think I'll also add a little bit of shading in here, these areas. Um, and then I'm going to take my tortillon and just with a light back and forth motion, I'm just going to blend that in to the paper. I always find this so meditative. A little bit blended. If you wanted to shade different areas, you can absolutely do that. Sometimes I get lost in my shading because I enjoy it so much. Like that. If you'd like to, you can add some shading in these areas, like kind of on the outside. And I'll go ahead and do that so you can see how it looks, and then you can decide what you would like to do. It doesn't have to be everywhere, just a little bit here and there, kind of in, well, strategic places. Somewhere that you think you would have a little bit of a shadow. Maybe like right in there. And then go ahead and shade that with your tortillon. And sometimes you can add shading just with the tip of your tortillon once it gets enough graphite on it. So you don't always have to use your pencil. You can just go ahead and add it just with a tortillon. It's of course going to be very much lighter, but sometimes that's all you need. And I think we made it all the way around. So I am going to add a little bit of color. And I am going to start with, let's see. I've got blue and sky blue. So on the ones that are kind of going curving to the left, I am actually going to color those blue. You can add any colors that you like. I'm just kind of in a little bit of a maybe a blue mood. I don't know. So I'm going to bring the blue up quite far. And then I'll show you what I'm going to do. Then I'll take the sky blue and go over it with a little more pressure. But go all the way to the end. Take your time with this because there's a lot of areas where things go under or over, so it can be a little bit more challenging just to follow things through. But if you take your time and be patient with it, you can do it. Again, with the dark, just the blue. It's not a dark blue, actually. It's darker than the sky blue, but it's just called blue. And I'm going to go ahead and do all of those with the blue. Not using a lot of pressure. I don't want it too dark. I don't want it like navy or anything like that. Just a nice bluish color. Blue is my favorite. It's hard to choose a favorite color actually because they all are pretty and they do different things when needed. Okay, so I've got my blue down and I'm going to go ahead and add the sky blue. Blend a little bit up in there. And then we've just got our last set here. I like Mooka because it's very organic and you can really have fun with variations and changing it around. So it's a fun one to just focus on. All right, I've got my blue in. And then I'm going to go in with some greens and a yellow. So I've got yellow, excuse me, yellow, green, and green. Um, yeah, my apologies. It's a struggle with the allergies this year, and I just don't know what's bothering me, but it's getting better. All right. So with the green, I'm going to go ahead and do that on the side that starts on the left and goes to the right. So I'm going to go up quite a ways, like almost to the top there with the green, adding a little bit of pressure towards the center. And I'm going to show you what I'm doing, and then we'll fill in the rest of them. Then I'm going to go in with the yellow green and very light on the end and more pressure as I get away from the tip and a lot more pressure over the green and just blending that in. Same here. This light pressure at the very tip, just very light, a little more medium pressure there, and then a heavier pressure as I go over the green. Blend a little bit up there. And then on the ends, it's adding the yellow. And you can take that as far back as you want. You could go over the whole thing if you want to. I'm not going to. I'm just kind of keeping it more towards the tips there. All right, so I'm going to work my way around like we did with the blue, but now we're just working with the greens and the yellow. Green here, heavier pressure towards the center. A little bit in there. You can put a little bit in there if you will, if you like. All right, switching to the yellow green, just very light pressure on the ends and then heavier pressure as you get away from the end and much heavier as you go over the green. And then we're already on our last one. It goes pretty quickly, actually. And then we'll take our yellow and go back in and get these ends. Out. And then all we have left are the orbs. And you can decide if you want to fill those in with colored pencil, or if you want to take like a metallic type of gel pen. And I'm going to use the altitude. This is kind of the copper colored one, and just fill in these orbs here. Just for a little added interest, maybe a little bit of sparkle. Or you can just leave them as they are, like that. And that is our Mooka project. We can fill in our top, our initials, and this is a fun one to try to figure out where I want to put them. And I think I'm going to tuck mine actually into the tangle here, just like that. So I've got my N and my H tucked right in there. All right, so we have Mooka by Zentangle to put my name on it. It is July 18th. I don't know where the time has gone. Um, I will say I am looking forward to 2026 already. So, hopefully the second half of the year will be much better. All right, and I think for the weekly tangles, I think this was week 17. So we'll have to get back on track with that as I recover my voice and everything. All right, so that is my take on Mooka. It play around with it, try different colors, different ends, tips on there. You can do so many different things. And this is the Mooka where it kind of comes outside instead of staying inside. So I like to play around with it like that, and do different combinations that way. So have fun with it. It's very organic and it takes a little practice, but once you get the hang of it, it's super fun to play around with. Thank you so much for listening today and for putting up with my voice challenges. I'm on the mend and I'll be back in a couple of days. And I hope you all are doing well and having a wonderful, wonderful summer. Thank you so much for watching. Be well. I'll see you soon and I love you guys. Bye.